Hey, welcome to the Psy TAi podcast number 26. I'm going to talk about quantum theory. Got some videos for y'all with Neil deGrasse Tyson, some other guy. But we're going to go tie on these psychedelics. Let's cue this intro. Hey guys, welcome to the Psy TAi podcast number 26. It's your host, Captain Naga. Or Ty, man, call me Ty. I hope y'all are having a wonderful morning, evening, night, midnight special, whatever time this is coming at you. Take this energy now that we all in the same boat. We can start the conversation. All right, guys, man, I got my tea. I got my other herbs, but I want to talk about science. This is the pinpoint ideas for this. I want to try to talk about science and how my view on it and how it's evolving compared to the psychedelic experience and everything. And I want to also, before I start that, I want to say the Psy TAi, just for the sense of the Psy TAi podcast does not promote the use of illegal or legal drugs. What you do with your body is your body. What we do in this is we go over educational articles like from hospitals and also give my 2 cents worth of experience. This is purely for educational purposes. All right, guys. But yeah, like I was saying, I want to talk about my view on science compared to the psychedelic experience, and like what does it mean for the combination of the two to finally arise? Because not every scientist is all rigid and stuck up, but they are open to these possibilities because the math is leading them that way. The math is something so cool. But we're gonna touch all on that, and I got some videos ready for y'all, and as well. I just want to tie. I just want to just ties. You know, just ties when you combine your mind with your heart. You keep that circle spinning. You let whatever come out, it just come out. All right. So, and that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Wrinkle and Time as well. These awesome books. Wow, that are not showing up because the cover outside is green. But the window, the door, and this is the back of A Wrinkle in Time. The cover's ripped off, but it also has green on it. There you go. You can see the middle. I want to talk about extra dimensions, time travel, higher dimensional beings, entities, extraterrestrials, all of the works, man, because this is all tying together to this whole big story, this whole big conundrum that we are figuring out. It's not just all science fiction. I was looking for my lighter. It's not all science fiction, but it's actually soon to be a science fact in my view, a science fact, and we're gonna come to these conclusions in the most eye-opening ways, as if that isn't already happening. But my view on science, because I dive deep into esoteric knowledge for about five years now, and what I mean by that is I found a torrent back in the day. Swim count the torrent, and what I did was it was a library of like 6,000 books of just random books from like esoteric knowledge, talking about magic circles or talking about different practices of yoga, talking about the pineal gland. There was a lot of books that was specifically talking about the pineal gland. They ain't even mention how we all talk about endogenous DMT in the pineal gland and stuff like that. These books that I was reading were talking about while meditating, focus on your pineal gland, your hippocampus, and your upper thalamus, which is like when you put your tongue up against the roof of your mouth and go straight up. It's like right there and connecting those 3 triangles. And I was really practicing that stuff because I was like, they was talking about unlocking psychic ability and like being able to mentally hear things like the people's minds or however you want to put it. Now I see it on a bigger scale than that, and I'm gonna talk about that from this book. This book all goes into that. But yeah, it was talking about mental telepathy. Oh god, hold on. I'm not used to having this music. Turn it down a little bit. Yeah, these esoteric books was talking about telepathy and astral projection and ways to just be. I wanted to be a wizard. Like, I really just wanted to be an all-out wizard. I started off wanting to be a magician, like a stage magician, because I was practicing card tricks, and that led me, I was trying to find old books on history about card magic and stuff like that, because I really like to dive deep into anything and really tie into everything that I do. So then it led me to that torrent file of, like it said, 6,000 occult esoteric books and stuff like this, and it was like really going in, and it was from many different sects, from Hermeticism, from a lot of Asian cultures and South American cultures. It just had books, and it was real beneficial to my life. It changed my life forever. I was like, wow, I hit the jackpot. I hit the motherfucking jackpot. And it was a cool time, man. And to tie this in with the psychedelic experience real fast while it's in me. Once I had my first psychedelic trip, which my first one was with LSD, it seemed as though everything that I was reading in those books and seeing that I had to work my way up to, or so to speak, like I was like, I'm gonna keep doing this, because I was getting here benefits as well. Like, I was being more relaxed. I felt as though I was on a path, so I wasn't as like unfocused on if I wanted to still be alive or not. I was like, yo, this is cool. This could be real. Like, I was really believing all the stuff. They would like tell stories of people flying and stuff like that, or holy communication with your guardian angel. That was a huge thing, and it was awesome. That's how I ran across the Kabbalion as well. But real quick, to tie this in the psychedelic experience, it made all of these come to life. Like, all of, because I was studying it for about two years before I ran across psychedelics, and it was like everything that I was learning in those books, it came to life. Time didn't mean anything. I felt expansive. I felt like I was tall and small. There was a lot of things going on, and I was able to see that my mind was creating this reality, creating what I was able to witness, my experience. My mind was creating my experience. So it was just all tying together. It was some cool books. The Kabbalion, yeah, that's why I wanted to get into. The Kabbalion was a cool one, man. That's like a book by the 3 initiates. Like, I listened to that audio book like at least 3 times, 4 times, and I skimmed through it and read it a couple times. But it's a book describing the 7 hermetic principles, which, let's see if I can name them, which is the law of vibration, the law of polarity, the law of I don't know right now. Don't judge me. I don't know right now. But the point is that it goes down and it explains the different elemental planes of existence. Like, it says that it's the elemental plane B of animal minds, and then I don't really remember the letters, but I'm just tie with me. But like the elemental, it'll be a level of mind of plants or animals, and then it'll go deeper and say that break up into 2 more planes, and it'll keep going deeper and deeper in these different elemental planes, and explain that elemental creatures existed in these planes and stuff like that. And it was my goal to travel to these places and experiencing them, because everything was tying together. I grew up watching a lot of weird TV, and I guess that kept my weird state of mind that I believe we all brought up in. Like, we all brought into this world, and we get all into routine of what's going on in life and around us with the people around us. And they was already been doctrinized by the people before them and around them, unless he was around certain kind of groups of people. To each his own. There's millions of people out here, infinite possibilities. But y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's not finish this tea before we finish. But dang. Yeah, it was all tying together with everything since I was born. It was like everything was starting to make sense, because everything else that I was reading was not making sense. Now, I'm not in for all reading about history and stuff like this, but when I bring up the Kabbalion and these books on magic with a K that I was reading and everything, it was it was explaining, as I see now, it was explaining what was going on in these psychedelic realms, but putting it as a science. Like they saw this as I see it too, as a hermetic science. Hermetic just means it's secret, means kept secret. It's hermetically sealed. So nowadays things are opened up. Information is being opened up with the internet and everything. Like we can, like I said, you can download all of these books that people used to die over and kill them. Well, not kill themselves over, but kill over because they was trying to defend it from people trying to destroy them and burn them and everything. Like the Library of Alexandria was utterly burned, and that was a mass collection of all the greatest scholars of the time, of all the knowledge they was collected was all there. Like, who burnt that, man? And the same thing is happening still today, just in other shapes and forms. Let's go to another thing. Thanks for tuning in to the Psy TAi podcast number 26. I had to change up. And if y'all have any articles you ever want to send me to go over, just drop them in the comments below, or check us out on Facebook or Instagram, or email me at justtaimail@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to go over anything. Like I was saying, these things, they developed it into a science, and I was a science which is like a discipline. But for me, yeah, that's what I was saying. It attracted me because it kept all these so-called foreign ideas that made me so different from other people. It was like these were normal to the masters, to the enlightened masters, or the practitioners, or as you were to put it, the initiates. And I was putting myself on forward for that goal because the thing that took me away from science in the first place was that I still had this kind of intuition weirdness about me that said science is not making complete sense. They still blocking so much out, and it's like it's too rigid for me at times. But that's how our consciousness works here. That's what it is. That's just how life works. But what I believe was happening, because these books were made not thousands of years ago that I was reading, but they were just made like 100 years ago, or they were made like 50 years ago or something like that. Turn that down a little bit. Or made like 50 years or something like that, or sometimes 300 for America or existed or something. But the point is that they had bases in science. Like a lot of people that wrote these books, they still had a scientific mind, and they still, like I said, they wrote a lot about science, about the hippocampus. They dive real deep into these, but they still talked about aliens, or as they would put it, entities and spirits and stuff like that. But these words we put out here, they really don't play justice to what's really going on. But that's another cool thing. They taught quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics makes perfect sense in the esoteric realm. It makes perfect sense. And a lot of things that they mentioned in these books, they would literally point out that science has not caught up to these discoveries yet, but they will. Like, it said it in a lot of these books, and I totally believed it because my experience in reality was experiencing that. It was experiencing that. Like, that's what I'm talking about, the quantum mechanics. These theories and these practices that were put out in these esoteric books, they were being practiced before quantum theory existed. And now, like the guy that said, oh yeah, oh wow, this is spooky, quantum theory. They're looking at all the small objects. Quantum theory is the study of the really tiny. They're like almost down to the Planck length, which is the tiniest divisible unit known to science right now. And a quick tidbit, if you know about the tetrahedron and sacred geometry and things like that, the shape of the Planck in this documentary I was watching, they said is a tetrahedron. So at the tiniest bit, where this reality, like when you zoom in on TV and you start seeing the pixels and everything, is made out of a bunch of tetrahedrons, which is like a 4D or 3D triangular structure. Just TAi, just TAi, just TAi. Not making this up. But the amazing thing, I think that quantum theory makes sense, because I was practicing astral projection and like leaving my body. Like I would just sit there and meditate, and then I would, this was about 4 years ago now, and I would try to envision the room around me. And then this is when I used to work too, and I had a lot of free time, and I was working tech industry, and I would envision myself floating outside and just envision whatever car going by, and just envision myself looking up, looking down, and just looking around and let whatever picture paint, just paint. Now I would sometimes get confused on like if I was making this up or not, but I truly believe that if I kept practicing it, then things would start erupting to a new level, or evolving, and I would start evolving to a new level. Like that's just, and this is before psychedelics. That's why I feel comfortable talking about everything. That's why I feel extremely comfortable talking about this, because I was already trippy before I got trippy. But once I got in that life, had that experience, it really was like, okay, it's on now. It's on now. Let's play this game of reality. But these books are so interesting, man. If you're gonna read a book, I would advise like type in esoteric texts or sacred texts. Sacred esoteric texts or sacred texts, and it's a website that has a library, a collection of tons of books from many different sects and many different religions, many different esoteric realms. You'll be surprised what you find. Ancient Kemet, Egypt, everything, man. I'm gonna make my own website like that. But hey, shout outs to them. But yeah, this is all tying in. I got a clip for y'all so that I can rest my breath for a bit. Hopefully I click it on the first try. Nope. There we go. I probably should turn this music down a little bit. But this is a guy that was talking about, like, yeah, he was talking, think about consciousness. That was the huge thing they talked about. They talked about science from a conscious point of view, which is not this ego point of view that you see like moving his hands and stuff right now, but the thing in the background, being able to move back and have control, moving into your higher self. A lot of that is spoken there in many different terms, but achievement of the Philosopher's Stone, everything is all tying together. I think about DMT and everything, but DMT and psilocybin mushrooms, which contains DMT as well, in this chemical structure. Just TAi. But when it comes to consciousness, they discover things from a conscious point of view. And they wouldn't mention drugs that they take for some reason. They just put it out there, and they would like talk about red dragons or red lions, white tigers, like different symbolism. Symbolism was huge. But the biggest thing they were saying was that we control this body. We need to learn to control this body from our higher selves, and not think that this is all that exists, this all that matters. And what's all that's here is the chemicals and stuff like that that's running around this biotech body. If you want to really look at it, we are technology already. We're just not metal and fiber optic cables kind of technology. But we have so many different things working within us that build up, like look at the processor chips on a microboard, how it's a bunch of different processors on there. They all laid out, but then they all working together. Then they got more cables and everything working together so that you all see the thing that comes out on your screen. Just think about that. So that's what these was saying. So that was all cured. That was all relieving, just for me. That was just all like relieving my depression in a kind of view, because I used to be depressed because I used to feel disconnected from my body and feel as though what was going on here was not really, was too sad or stuff, where I had no control, or I was just an observant. Let alone know that was a good thing. But also, it taught me about yoga and being mindful, being real mindful what you say, how you think and everything. And that helped this person here develop into a stronger, more open, feelingly more visceral type of person that I'm still growing into more today until I become a star. That was a huge thing. I'm just spilling a lot of esoteric stuff that I was reading. But they were saying our goal was to become a star, and then father or mother other solar systems. Like everybody. Oh, this really ties in with what I want to talk about later. I really want to save this. But just so I remember, that we all grow into stars, and we all start at different levels, and then we go into planets and solar systems and stars, and we keep going up and up and up. We're already that. We just have to be real conscious aware. But in these books, they talk about how that was one of the ultimate goals of a conscious being. But look what this guy that was talking about quantum theory. I skipped to like 26 minutes in, but he's going to talk about how quantum theory, we should look at quantum theory a little differently, because we look at it as quantum entanglement, as like particles traveling. Like, say we mess with a particle here and we mess with a particle here, and once they become entangled, they're interconnected, so to speak. So when I move this one like starts moving immediately, or react to this stimuli when it's stimulated. This one reacts stimulated as if it's being stimulated at the exact time, like simultaneously, instantaneously, faster than the speed of light. And according to Einstein rules and everything, nothing's supposed to be able to move faster than the speed of light at 300,000 kilometers a second, or 186,000 meters per square second. One of those two, whatever. Metric system or America. But he's saying is we need to stop looking at it like that, because we all hear these things going on, but we need to start looking at it as the properties held in those particles are not held in those particles. Like the blue that's on this owl is not on the owl, but it's somewhere else, and it's being related to the owl. This is what he was saying. And this ties all into this simulation theory, this hypothesis, the works. But let's see what he had to say, and then we're going to tie back into this. Please play, please play. Please play.
Saying those spins must have been fixed all along somehow by some variable that is hidden, that we can't see and can't measure, okay? But if you get a better correlation than that between the two spins, if you get this 85% that quantum mechanics predicts, then Einstein's picture doesn't hold. Quantum mechanics must be right. You must get this strange, what looks like communication. Well, these experiments were done. They were first done in the 1970s. They were first done kind of more rigorously in the 1980s.
I'm talking about the double slit experiment too, for those who
every time they've shown the same clear result, that quantum mechanics is right. You get a better correlation than any kind of classical physics or any kind of Einstein-like hidden variables picture can give you. So, entanglement really happens. But what was wrong then with Einstein's reasoning in this experiment? Well, he made the perfectly reasonable assumption, so reasonable we didn't even realize it was an assumption.
Yeah, we didn't know.
That we can call locality. That the idea that the properties of a particle, of an object, are located on that object. I mean, it just stands to reason. This box's blackness is in the box. What would it possibly mean to say this box's blackness is also kind of partly in this box? But in quantum mechanics, we do seem to have to say things like that. It seems that properties of objects, of quantum objects, when they're entangled, can be non-local.
Non-local?
And
It
it's
exists all in
only if we
consciousness.
make an assumption that this assumption of locality, that everything to do with this object is fixed here in this location, it's only in that assumption that we have to start thinking about spooky action at a distance and this kind of affecting this instantly through space.
Yeah, we see how we had to try to make a lot of sense out of that. We had to try to make a lot of sense of saying spooky action at a distance and how are things traveling faster than the speed of light? Like, and we've been over this ever since Einstein was out like this. Einstein made these equations like in the 70s or many years ago in the past. So this is, we have to keep our minds open to new possibilities, new ideas of what's really going on. And these esoteric books, man, they really had a huge clue, in my view. Huge clues. All right, let's get back.
What quantum mechanics really tells us is that there's something else, this thing that is just vaguely called quantum non-locality, which means that there's a kind of mixing of these two things that is very hard to put into words, but it means that there's a non-local influence that means, in effect, we can no longer think of these.
Yeah. Think about the psychedelic experience. A lot of people, including I, say it's hard to put a lot of this into words. So we just talking it out, sharing ideas so that we can create probably new words. Or just see that the words fail and that we invent this whole new way of communication. Y'all see we got the emojis popping. All right. Let's let the guy talk.
These two boxes as separate objects. That's what entanglement means. They've somehow become part of the same quantum entity. So quantum non-locality isn't spooky action at a distance, it's the alternative to spooky action at a distance. Now, Erwin Schrödinger, when he saw what Einstein, Podolsky, and Rosen had said, he recognized that this phenomenon of entanglement actually was pretty central to what quantum mechanics was really about. And in fact, entanglement is what happens all the time when any quantum particle interacts with any other. They have to become entangled. That is the only thing that can happen, according to quantum physics. And what this means is that as a quantum object starts to interact with its environment, its quantumness, you could say, or you could say if it's in a superposition, its superposition starts to spread into the environment. And it becomes harder to see that quantumness, that superposition, in the original object itself. It's sort of spread out, like an ink drop spreading in water. And so what that effectively means is that the quantumness starts to get washed away. This entanglement leads to a loss. Well, technically, the word is a decoherence of quantum properties, and it seems to be that ultimately leads to quantum objects behaving like classical objects as they start to interact with their environment. So what that's really telling us, and what we can now say, is that there isn't some strange situation in which little things like atoms obey quantum rules, and then for some reason big things like us obey classical rules, and they're just different things. Actually, we can now say that this is what quantum mechanics looks like when you're 6 feet tall. The weirdness that we talk about in quantum mechanics is just the way the world works. And in fact, you know, it's kind of us that are weird, because by the time quantum mechanics has become this scale, it kind of looks different to how it does when you're talking about photons and electrons. Why, though, does quantum mechanics only allow us 85% success? Why doesn't it allow us 100%? Well, it turns out that the answer really is about how efficiently these boxes can share that information about, in this case, what coin was put into them. It's about the efficiency of information sharing particles, but just using some simple axioms.
Hold on.
Well, that remains to be seen, but what's already...
Yeah, right.
My
No
most
ads.
creative
No.
place is when I'm alone.
No ads.
It's taken me a lot of getting outside of my comfort zone to feel like I can be vulnerable in
No.
a stadium.
Oh, this is a funny one.
Already illuminating is how they focus on this question of information, on how answers or measurement outcomes are contingent on the questions we ask.
Right.
Just as the outcome of these boxes, what comes out of these boxes, is contingent on what we put in, a £1 or a £2.
He going into something else right now. But y'all heard the point I was trying to get across, is that the properties are not contained inside of the box themselves. The blackness, the blueness is not on this cup. It just appears to be on this cup. Gosh, that was cool. But I got one more clip for y'all. We're gonna hop into that for tonight. I don't remember what I want to go into next. But this Neil deGrasse Tyson, and they asked them, yeah, we're just gonna read, and then
like I said, the rest of us go and keep making discoveries.
Well, we have time for one more question. If you're in your career as a scientist, if there is one question that you wish to address, what would that science question be?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to give an answer, but then I want your permission to give you a kind of a cop-out answer. I'll give both, a full answer and then a cop-out answer. My full answer is, I wonder if, in fact, the human intellect is sufficient to actually decode the full operations of this universe in which we live. And it's not specifically an astrophysical question, it's just more, we are an intelligent species because we defined ourselves that way. We don't have the benefit of another species to compare ourselves with, against whom we might fail miserably. And so when we compare ourselves to chimps, we sit up righteously and say, we have poetry and the Hubble telescope and philosophy, and the chimp just stacks boxes to reach a banana. Yet there's only 1% difference in our DNA. But then you'll say, what a difference that 1% makes. And I would say maybe that 1% DNA difference corresponds with an equally small difference in the intelligence between a chimp and humans. And you say, I can't believe that. No. Well, imagine some other species that visits us that's 1% along on that same scale, smarter than us. Consider, the smartest chimp does what our toddlers can do. And there's no way you will explain to a chimp, I'll have dinner ready at 6:30, can you pick up some juice on the way home? The simplest human thoughts are inconceivable to a chimp. And their talents are about what our toddlers can do. So let's get back to this 1% smarter alien that we've discovered. Corresponding this analogy, we now say, what would we look like to them? Well, they would roll Stephen Hawking forward after combing the human species, and they'd say, this one is slightly smarter than the rest because he can do astrophysics calculations in his head like little Timmy over here, who just came home from preschool. Oh, Timmy, you just composed 3 sonnets. Isn't that cute? Let's put it up on the refrigerator door. Oh, you just derived the fundamental law of calculus. Isn't that cute? Put it up on the refrigerator. Their simplest thoughts would transcend our deepest thoughts. And maybe to them, it is obvious what dark matter is and dark energy. Maybe to them, particles popping in and out of existence is a trivial exercise in their understanding of the multidimensional space-time continuum. And we are here groping at the sides of a wall, not knowing how tall, wide, or deep it is, because we have the limits of the human physiology evolved off the plains of Africa just to try to understand the entire universe. So I lose sleep on that question each night. So that's my...
Wait, did you almost say at the beginning of that answer that you are wondering, maybe something of a mysterion, that you're not sure?
I'm not sure.
The universe is so complicated that it may be more complicated than we can ever fathom.
No, that's the hubristic way to say it. That's not how I said it.
Hubristic.
Okay?
How did you say it again?
We might not be smart enough.
Yep.
Okay?
Not
The hubristic, if you're hubristic, you would say, we are smart, but the universe is just really complicated. That's not what I said.
Right.
I said we might not be smart enough to figure out a universe that could be trivial to the brain of a more intelligent species.
Okay.
So check your hubris at the door. Otherwise, you will not bask in the cosmic perspective that so much of this discussion brings upon us. So, may I now give you my cop-out answer? My cop-out answer is, I think often about the questions we do not yet know to ask, because discoveries yet to come, but when they arrive, will put us in a new vista, a new place to stand, enabling us to see questions undreamt of and unimagined before we got there. So when I, again, lay awake at night, I ponder what kinds of questions lay beyond our reach. Because the questions that we even know how to pose, they're there. Those are not even interesting to me anymore because we knew how to ask the question. I want to know the question that is beyond everyone's reach. And by definition, I can't, because we haven't gotten there yet. But that doesn't mean I shouldn't dream of that frontier. And
That sounded like a coda to me, I gotta say. Like I could hear the orchestra playing through.
May I offer a better coda?
Yes. And then we'll let you go. But I
Yeah, we went here long. Sorry, we went long. Try not to ever forget that the history of this exercise, this beautiful exercise where we find out where we fit in this great unfolding of cosmic events and phenomena, that the larger grows the area of knowledge. Okay? The bigger that area grows, just remember, so too grows our perimeter of ignorance. It may be that as much as we think we know, as much as we know, as much as the more things that we ultimately learn, for all we know, we could be steeped in the center of infinite ignorance, which then provides job security forever for scientists, right?
Hey guys, yo. Thank y'all for what was that? Hey y'all, thanks for still tuning in to the Psy TAi podcast number 26, man. That Neil deGrasse Tyson, I swear, man, he's probably done. I read a comment one time that said he's done DMT, he just not saying anything. But how that was so powerful about that was, this is a scientist that I looked up to since I was in high school. If y'all pay attention to this podcast, I used to want to be a theoretical astrophysicist. Like that's what I wanted to go. That's what I was going to college for and everything. I wanted to really go into that field of study. So I was like, oh, Neil deGrasse, yeah. But other than my praises right now to him, what happened? When he talked about his one question is if we're not smart enough to comprehend what is really going on out there in the universe and be able to formulate new questions that have not been asked before. Like y'all know, man. And how this ties real deeply for me into the psychedelic experience is that you go into these realms. I have gone into these realms and come back and experience things and come back with questions that a lot of people, that only other people that have experienced these realms are asking as well. And like when it comes to extraterrestrials being extra dimensional and us being able to access them through our consciousness, and them not just being visible to us because of our field of vision that's just inside the band of light that goes from I'm not to butcher this. Yeah, I'm trying to see the rainbow from the lightest color to the darkest color of the rainbow. Just that little visible band of light. But really, we got the X-rays, gamma rays, and even more rays that we don't even have names for right now. That whole worlds exist in. Whole worlds exist in different frequencies and different locales and different places. But it's not a place as we would think here. But overall, what I'm trying to say, back to Neil deGrasse Tyson, is that this is what's been a lot of people that come back from these realms, like starting in the 50s and 60s. When this was first like coming out to the American populace and stuff like that, because it's been used in these other cultures for thousands of years. Just look at Japan, man. They've been using something. But especially, man, do your research. For real, it's out there. But yeah, starting in the 50s and 60s, people were experiencing these realms, these other, saying they were traveling to other dimensions and wormholes and everything, but they didn't have the vernacular or the lifestyle to be able to be calm enough, I would say, or focused enough to really translate what the experience was for them, as much as they really probably can if they had some more skill in this life. I was thinking about Alan Watts, and probably was talking about the problem with LSD movement in the 50s is that it was everybody thought that they can just take it all the time and just run around and be able to do amazing things. But especially in the Western culture, nobody really had developed any skills, like a skill set, like being able to write, being able to paint, being able to play a musical instrument, just being good, developing a skill, starting from I suck to thumbs up, 2 thumbs up. And that was a huge problem. But now it's 2018, and I believe we evolved a lot more. Like, things always start off a little chaotic, but then in that chaos, that's when stuff starts to erupt. Beauty starts to erupt from that chaos, and it starts evolving into more complex forms. I know how what evolution really entitles, evolution of consciousness here on Earth. Man, but I say but a lot. Sorry for that. But nowadays, if you check out the Reddits, if you stay tuned for the Psy TAi podcast, people are experiencing, especially with dimethyltryptamine and high dose psilocybin trips, communication with entities, saying they see portals opening up in walls. So I'm recovering from a cold. But the show will go on. But they experience communication with the they experience communication with these extra-dimensional beings traveling through portals, but the science and stuff has not caught up to it so much so that when they talk about it, or when we talk about these kind of things, they're received as science fiction, or received as an hallucination, as a drug trip, as you were just tripping, as chemicals just firing off in your brain, and because of things that you watch on TV, and because of that, that's what you projected. But a lot of people are experiencing the same types of realms. Like a lot of people experience in the DMT realm the justers. And people on like I experienced, many people experience different things. People unlocking doors in their mind to new realms of knowledge, or feeling as though they're being downloaded with new information that's coming from an external source, making them ask new questions. Like back in the 50s, the new questions was, why am I going to fight this war? Why am I going to fight this war? Back before then, you was like, it's my country, I'm going to fight my war, no matter if they wrong or not. There was no second thought about it. But now y'all see, nowadays, there's many, many, many layers of thoughts about it. But back then, that's when it was first erupted. Wait, let's ask the question, why am I going to fight this war right now? Why? I really don't have to. And, well, if you don't want to go to jail back then. But, what Neil deGrasse was talking about was being able to formulate new questions. And a lot of the weird people that you see, a lot of weird people, when you look at me, I'm very weird. I'm very weird because I always ask a lot of weird questions. Because I believe that's what these, I know this is what the psychedelic experience has brought about. But that's the, looking back in the past, a lot of people, you taught to stray away from these because you're taught that these drugs are relatable to crack and stuff like that. When really it's a whole different dimension. Literally, it's a whole different dimension of chemicals, of plants. These are plants. And it's amazing. Like, you don't see anybody running around with trying to rob people and stuff like you do on crack. I grew up in Philly, so I seen a lot of personal crackheads, and none of them was coming up with any kind of new knowledge. And was never trying to improve their way of living, and I never seen them really be happy either. So it's a whole, just with those simple facts right there, it's a whole nother dimension of chemicals. These psychedelic experiences, people are experiencing many different things. One thing I remember experiencing was a lady talking to me in my head. And this was during my LSD sessions, and it was like a real comforting voice, but it was like advice. It was like advice on how to really enact on things, because a lot of us are not really really raised in ways that are beneficial to us being our true potential, or being what we could fully be in that moment. It was like real toss back. It was like real comforting and stuff like that. And it's a lot going on. But yeah, that's what I want to talk about. The second part of his question, when he was saying how stupid we are. Remember in those esoteric books I was reading, I was saying how they say one of our biggest things is to turn into a star. And that it's different levels of beings out here. And that you can communicate, in these books they were saying how you could communicate with these beings to access certain knowledge and access certain things, unlock certain things in yourself. That's how they would put it in those books. Unlock certain things in yourself by having communication and stuff. And a lot of this, in a lot of different religions, people be like, oh, well, you communicate, demons and things like that. But that's why we scared away from all of this, because of how the word demon or daemon is thrown out there to just stop people from really experiencing a multi-dimensional reality and keeping them trapped to this slither to say this is all that's it, and everything else out there is evil. It is some bad out there, but it's also a ton of good. And this ties in because they were talking about the Ascended Masters and everything, and the tie about Neil deGrasse's thought on how ignorant we are. I really do believe that. I really do believe that we are ignorant because of our experiences. We only experience this, but yet it's so much more out there. It's so much more out there. I'm not just talking about space traveling in a rocket, but multi-dimensional space. And our math and everything is really lead into that. They talk about math in 8 dimensions and 10 dimensions now, 10-dimensional space. And it's so wild that all of this is actually true. But it takes a while for it to catch up. It makes me think about the government or how they say the government reacts to things when they say, in those conspiracy documentaries, when they say the world is just not ready to be told about aliens yet. They'll be thrown into chaos. They won't understand. And I'm really tired on all of that right now, because the level of consciousness I'm seeing it really do have to come out in levels, and just revealing yourself like that, or these other dimensional beings revealing themselves like that, it would be people will start going crazy. I'm gonna make a whole thing about Childhood's End. Childhood's End, I got it in the True Life Story, so we can try to go over the third eye review, so I'm not gonna really go over it right now. But Childhood's End, man, look it up. Just saying. But Neil deGrasse was talking about how these other dimensional beings will be able to look down on us and be like, what? Y'all just learning that? Or be able to say, oh, well, little Timmy or little Larry really learned this a long time ago, and y'all greatest person is just on the touch of that. And I really do believe that. And that ties into the Wrinkle in Time book and The Wind in a Door, which is an awesome book that I ran across by Madeline L. Angel. I think that's how you say it. But they have a movie out now that if you're really in the zone, you'll get a lot out of it. It's a real trippy video with Oprah, and Oprah the main character. But the thing, if y'all really see the movie or know about the book, it's about a dad. We're gonna get synopsis with some common music. It's about a dad. About a dad and a mom who was experimenting with something called a Tesseract, which allows for extra dimensional travel. Oh man, wait, I'm just telling you, sorry for that I didn't complete a thought that I had about us evolving in consciousness that I had, and being able to actually become wiser, a little more wiser, as much as we can in this lifetime. And with these psychedelic experiences, people are coming back with more, I believe, in my view as well, more levels of consciousness. Like, time is something so different for me now. Time is something so different because of my many experiences of seeing time being a lot more wavy than it is when I think that it's rigid. It's all about how I think about it. How I just tie. And a lot of people say, that's just all in your head. But, we get in there. But about this book, Wrinkle in Time, the mom and the dad tried to invent a Tesseract and try to sell it to the government, but they thought they was crazy. Yep, I'm telling you, they thought they was crazy, and the dad eventually gets lost and actually figures out how to tesser, which is like I was about to wiggle, but you find a wrinkle in time, as they say. That's why the name of the book, and you move through and you're able to travel to other planets like that. But so Meg, Charles Wallace, and Calvin O'Keefe, they go out there and they try to find their dad, because Calvin, the little boy, what is it, Charles Wallace, he goes out there, he's like a real smart kid, and he's connected to these beings that he's able to talk to in his mind, and they appear to him, but they tell him that they are universes. They are different universes, and one of them is a different star system, but they appear to him as how they appear to him, which is the three ladies. And Oprah was the big one. She was a huge, probably because remember, it's planets. No, it's it's planets, it's solar systems, it's solar systems, and then it's multiple solar systems, galaxies, then it's multiple galaxies put together, then it's galaxy clusters. I believe that every level is a being in itself at a level and at a division of consciousness, but moving up. And there they have they're so wise that they're able to run a cluster, but they break down into individuals, which is, I do believe through my psychedelic experiences, that is at a level us, on some deep level. It is us, it is me, it is you doing this. But we are the players down on that lower level of humans for whatever reason. But it's different levels of running things, of running the level. The universe runs itself so sufficiently at different levels. And like a galaxy is a consciousness, a star is a consciousness. Just TAi, because that's what was going on in these books. And the books really go real deep into them describing who they really are and how they are really star systems and things like that. But they go over to tell about the story. How do I keep it? Charles Wallace. They help Charles Wallace and Meg travel to these other dimensions. And they teach them how to tesser and show them that they have the power in themselves and things like that. And they really do, and they show them, and they rescue their father and stuff from the because they had to show it love. They had to show it love. It's one of those stories. But the real esoteric, that's why we gotta stick with you read the esoteric in these cool books, but when you really tie and meditating while you're reading these, you'll get the exoteric information. As I did, I used to read all of these books. Like, I really got back into reading books about microdosing psilocybin mushrooms. And I would go out in the park, I would take a little tiny dose of psilocybin mushroom, and then I would read the book. Like, I'm not saying you do that. I'm not saying you do that, but that's what I was doing. And it allowed me to really live in the book. I was like alive in the book, and everything that was in the book was making sense. Like, I was only reading The Wrinkle of Time or reading this book on the super beings called They Are With Us Now, Demonstrating What We All Must Become, and this book on the Tao. I was like, I would read those for a book. That was a couple books that's on my mind right now. And it allowed me to really read. Like, I would be focused, and I would really read so much more into the book, and read a lot more pages than I would probably if I was just not on a dose. And it was amazing because everything was making sense when they were saying how eventually in the second book, this is the book that people don't really know about, A Wind in the Door, they travel to Charles Wallace's mitochondria, which is in his DNA, because he was sick, and his mom was already doing this study on delay, and that was something that attacks mitochondria. It was fictional, like, this is not scientific, this was in the story. But before I get into that, just to tie back into the psychedelic realm, have you ever felt as though you was traveling into your DNA during these psychedelic journeys? Or like, what if our universe is encoded in our DNA, and then it's expressed by what certain genes is turned on and off and everything, and what certain genes are in the first place, and that what creates this physical Tesseract body? Because, you know, at the Planck length, like the pixel you're saying, that's the Tesseract. It's like a pixel, but we're all whew. What if that is this projection? We're projections of DNA. Because I did find out. So I found out this fact later. I talked about this in last Psy TAi podcast on how the person that found the structure and won the Nobel Prize for the structure of the double helix of the DNA, when he was 88, he admitted that he was on LSD. So these levels of consciousness and science that's waking up to, they're all based off of people, mostly based off of us pushing our intellect to reach the levels that they're eventually going to reach when we have, y'all see Star Wars and everything. But the experience of these psychedelic realms play a big part in it. But yeah, have you ever felt like that? I remember True Life Stories, he was saying how during his DMT trips, it feels as though he's going into his DNA and experiencing his DNA. Like that's the encoding of the universe in us. But that's something I really, really tie about. But in this book, they travel to his DNA, and they say, why is it so important that they do this? Not like it was the other people besides his sister they was worried about. But they said the fate of the universe lied in healing Charles Wallace. Like he was the fate of the universe. Like in this moment, saving him meant saving the whole universe. And that was a big plot that they was putting out there. A big plot scheme they was putting out there. Theme, I said scheme. Theme that was part of the book. So how this ties into his question of Neil deGrasse Tyson when talking about how slow we are, I really do believe that, but I believe we are evolving. We are evolving. And in these realms, we'll be able to do the same experiments that we're able to do here, but they probably be more based on the quantum theory and quantum hypothesis that is emerging. Because like the guy said, everything is quantum. We're just quantum on this level when there's so many things built up to be 5'9", however tall I am. That's how much it is, but it's the same principles that work on that same level. But this is how quantumness is expressed here as a person, as this object, us, me, you. So that all really ties into all of this, man. That's amazing. Thanks for tuning in to Psy TAi podcast. Please share this. All right. Nope. So, what I was talking about, I'm trying to remember. Charles Wallace, and going in, I'm trying to see if I can find a quote too. I'll find it in a bit. Let me finish what I was talking about. But what was so cool was that, I'll check out the Psy TAi video too. JUSt TAi now video where I talked about the universe within. Because I always started thinking that reading these esoteric books that the universe, that a lot of things was contained within myself. And that every woman, every man is in fact a star. Every woman and every man is a star. And that's how it should be looked at. And if you're not looking at it like that, then you're degrading the person. Yeah, so to speak. But they travel into his DNA. And the thing about it, once they travel into his DNA, they see how, they're brought to his DNA by seeing a dragon inside of, what looks like a dragon inside of the shrub bush, but it turns out to be a cherubim angel. And the cherubim angel helps them go into the DNA, and they run into this other creature, this other mouse-like creature that they described. It's real trippy. But the thing about it, the level of consciousness of the little tiny rat and of the cherubim angels are millenniums past the knowledge of Meg and them could ever be, or humans, period. But yet they're all put on the same journey. Like they were sent there by their masters, the cherubim, and the other thing they were sent to all go on this master journey to save the DNA, the mitochondria of Charles Wallace from the Fernandale, which were attacking them. And the Fernandale were things, like in the book they say, where they were unnamers. They like to unname things, make things not have a purpose, to make things seem as though there is no purpose, that there is nothing for you to do. So they had to attack it because it was attacking the mitochondria, and it wasn't allowing to flourish because it was convincing one that you don't need to do this or blah, 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 blah. But the fact is that, and the other opposite of it are the namers. They found out that Meg was a namer. And what a namers do is that they give things a purpose. They see the good in it, the good in the person or anything, and they name it. And that's giving it a true purpose. That's seeing the inner workings of it, knowing that it's the Brahma coming off as a ego. If you want to get into talk like that, it's just the Brahma, the Atman, coming off as like silly old me. Oh, I'm just hurt. But that's what a namer does. Says this is you. And the cherubim was able to name, like through his studies in the past growing up, this cherubim named Progenoskis. He was able, in his earlier studies, he was able to name stars. He was able to name thousands of stars and systems and everything like that. And that was just part of his elementary school teaching. And so did the mouse. He had his own awesome studies going along as well that I can't really remember right now. But they were all more highly evolved in consciousness than Meg. But they still knew where Meg was in life. But they was like, oh, silly girl. Oh, silly a lot. But they were all on the same mission. Like, I believe we're all on the same mission of light and knowledge. Like, you see, they had to learn. Like, it was studies. And this was just a whole nother study. And for the prognosis, he had to see about letting go and stuff like that. But this all just ties into me about extra-dimensional beings, psychedelics, and how it's, if you look around, it's in all of our literature, it's in a lot of our movies, and always in sci-fi, it's always in these science fiction books. I've been hearing some people about channelings and stuff, and they be saying how believe it or not, the channelers be channeling stuff, and they be saying, you'll be surprised how accurate most of these movies are when they depict extraterrestrial beings. So it's a lot of mystery. And I'm done with history. As Neil deGrasse Tyson said, I'm done with history. As I say, I'm done with history, I'm on to new mysteries. I'm in it for the mystery. Because history, we all know, man. There's more people that know more than that than me. And I just talk to niggas to ask me something. I want to be able to formulate new questions so that we can evolve the level of consciousness just up a bit. And it all starts with having a conversation. So with that cheesy transition, share this page, please. I would really appreciate it. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube at JUST TAi now, gmail.com. JUSt TAi now or JUSt TAi. Just stay Thank you for the support. Check out the Patreon page as well, so the stream can get stronger, better equipment, and start meeting up fundraisers, working together with True Life Story. Let's go. But that's, man, there's extra stuff, and that's my goal. In my sense, I always seem to have a second sixth, as people want to put it, a sixth sense. That is always people and things moving around me, and that is a whole world that I wasn't aware of. And I want access to it. I want to gain access to it. And I believe I have been gaining access to it, and I'm just talking hype. But I want to go farther. I want to keep going farther and farther. Because I'm a scientist, a true scientist, an explorer, an adventurer. So don't do what I do. But if you are already in that field, let's all come together. And just tie. Just tie. And y'all, I thank y'all for showing all the love, man. All those questions on that Real Spirits Dynamic video. I still can't get over it. I'm still not over it. But salutes to y'all. And if y'all ever had the time to read these books on your own time, I highly recommend it. Like, if you're going to read a book and you don't want to watch TV or stuff like that, just read. It's not that many pages. This book is only 238 pages, and the words are kind of big on the page. Gotta get the third one done. Whew. Real life X-Files. For real. Alright, guys. I think I'm gonna sign out right here. Getting a little winded. Man, I'm gonna have some shirts and giveaways coming out soon. All that cool stuff. And remember, start the conversation on psychedelics, whatever the cause. If that is what it is, if you feel as though it's your cause to talk about it. Or if you're having these weird experiences, just share them here. Let's start the conversation here. This has been Captain Naga. You call me Ty, whatever the case may be. I'm just asking y'all, we all Ty. Do we really Ty? Sometimes, I don't know, dude. Sometimes I don't know. The next time, Ty, always.